Now, your overall remit doesn't just include the GGF, it also involves the BFRC and Fencer, which form the GGF group of companies. Are you happy with the way the schemes are operating and performing?
In the main, yes. I think it's very... the way the federation is evolving is quite amazing. Even in my time here, we've grown from really just a trade federation with GGF fund protecting deposits. Obviously the introduction of Fencer as the competent person scheme then spawned Borough IT, because we needed an organisation to manage the database and carry all the data transfer. So that's gained a lot of strength. Equally so, we've looked out there and the members have said there's an issue with insurance-backed warranties, and can you assist us with that? So we've set up GGFI as a provider of insurance-backed guarantees, which have worked well. And then ultimately we were approached by the organisers of the BFRC in that to move it on to the next stage it needed a greater administrative backup. They didn't have that. It couldn't really go to any of the material specific trade federations because there would have been problems that, if it's being run by one, they would lean too far that way. So with the federation being non-material specific, it was the obvious place for BFRC to come.
Now, just looking wider than the GGF, other schemes you've been supporting, for example, Trustmark, have they really worked out in flushing the road traders, or do you think sterner methods should be employed?
I think it's a start. The biggest problem facing Trustmark or any scheme of its sort is to get the necessary consumer awareness of what it is. The idea is sound, and it's something we wish to support because it's the right way forward. The difficulty is that the government are balancing their books as well as everyone else, and some of the original funding that we were hoping for, or that Trustmark was hoping for, was redirected into other areas, so a lot of the actual advertising didn't happen. Now if the consumers don't understand what Trustmark is or what it can offer, they won't use it. If the consumer doesn't use it, the membership of the various trade federations and the registered operators will lose interest in the scheme because they're not going to gain business from it, and it won't achieve what we're hoping for, is to get rid of the less reputable traders out there.
Can you ever see the end of Phoenix companies, which is a curse that seems to be with us like the poor forever?
For some reason our industry seems to be harder hit with Phoenix companies than others, but I mean, as a voluntary trade federation we will never be able to combat Phoenix companies. We will never stop them operating. What we can do is we can stop them coming into the federation, which is why, in fact, when we had our strategy review, as most people seem to do at the end of the 90s, we actually increased the vetting procedure for the federation from 2 years trading to 3 years trading, to specifically stop somebody who's gone out of business, dumped a lot of debts, coming straight back in and using the benefit of a trade federation or any organisation that's carrying a logo that has consumer recognition. Until there's a change in government legislation, that can never happen. It's only the government that could stop a Phoenix company.
You've also, you haven't mentioned this yet, but of course you're being more closely involved with the Welsh Assembly.
Yes.
And there. Can you explain a bit more? Well,
with a surname like Rees, I felt I had to be the one to go down to talk to them. But we've seen the various statements that the Welsh Assembly government want control of their own building regulations and all matters of sustainability with regards to building. I think that's going to happen. I think any hopes that lobbying would change that are wrong. I think Wales will get their own building regulations. What was very important in my meetings with them was to get the message across that yes, they should have control, but bear in mind we have an industry that operates across all the devolved governments, and if all are different, it's going to become extremely difficult for the industry to operate.
I think we also should mention, again, I would say as an upbeat note, about the conference that's coming up at Wembley. Would you like to explain a bit more about what's going to be discussed there?
Certainly. The Federation has always looked to move with what the members have required, and for the last couple of years we've we've switched to an idea of an open forum for our members, probably just half a day, which is based on a couple of presentations on burning issues that we need to get over to the members. And then really almost like a question time idea where the board are there and the floor is open to the membership to ask any questions of the Federation and the board. When we were approached by Tony Higgins with regards the GO conferences, or exhibitions rather, and if we'd like to be involved, it seemed an ideal opportunity to be linked to the events that were going to take place at Wembley. So we moved the date of our forum so that we could have our forum linked to the exhibition and obviously the GO9 awards in the evening. I think the aim there in the morning is to put on again a couple of issues that are paramount to the industry at the moment. Obviously the Part L and the Part F discussions, the consultations that are now out, but equally so the consumer white paper, which could have a major impact on the home improvement oriented companies.
I notice there's no room in the morning's talk for Project Green, which
Project Green is still very high on our agenda.
Could you explain to the viewers?
Yes, certainly. What we undertook back in 2007 was probably about a 12-month project. One, to look at the environmental credentials of the industry, specifically with reducing waste, recycling, saving energy. But equally, on the second side of the project was to promote the energy efficient benefits of new rated windows. We produced a set of statistics which we're still using very heavily for all our lobbying with government, and which is again slightly frustrating in the latest low carbon white paper which has come out, which is offering very little for the improvement to the existing housing stock. So we're still keen to drive forward with that issue. The difficulties really through 2008 and this year is that we've wanted to move that project forward now into the commercial sector, but just physically haven't had the time or the manpower. It's still very key to our drive going forward.